my life.
And welcome back to this week's edition of Two Coaches, One Grizz. This week's episode, we got the retirement of the GOAT, okay? A class action lawsuit, but we got to start with this weekend's games. Gentlemen, listen, these past 2 weeks have been a phenomenal bout of football, okay? Amazing weekend on the divisional round. This weekend, just as good. Coach, talk to me. What do we got?
Well, I mean, first of all, I want to start out the show by thanking God, giving him all praise. This was a great weekend for me in more than one way. My grandson was born on Saturday.
Hey-o!
So I have to give him a shout out. I have to say thank you, God, for letting him arrive safe and sound. A couple of weeks early, but he's good to go. I'm also happy to be here and talk about these games. Kansas City, 21-3 lead, making me look like a seer of the future. And they fall flat in their face for the next 2 quarters. They mustered 3 points. Couldn't do anything. Again, they face a defense that's only rushing 3 guys. I think they were dropping one of the linemen, they were rushing 3 and giving up the underneath. They forgot what got them there in the first half. They were throwing the ball short. They were getting guys on crossing routes. Tyreek Hill looked so fast.
Very fast,
Yeah,
yes.
and scheme-wise, they're throwing him underneath. They're throwing the crossing routes. Man, it looked amazing. They ran the football. They were doing everything they're supposed to do. In the second half, they stopped doing it.
So, my takeaway from the game, it was an amazing game. And as bad as it looked early on for the Bengals, somehow, it didn't seem that they were going away, right? And in that last sequence in the first half, it kind of gave the Bengals some momentum going into the half, right? Like they had some wind underneath their sails. And then, they come out.
A tale of 2 halves.
Right, and then they come out and all of a sudden it looked like Mahomes was playing tight. Like he was trying to force things, which that's not his MO. Like he's a loose player.
Negative. That has been his MO when they lose. Whenever early on in the season, that
right, but I'm saying it was like more so like it was. Yes, he forced it early on in the year, but it wasn't like he was in rhythm like he usually. I don't know. He seemed off. He seemed tight. He seemed tentative.
They came off running the wrong stuff. He was, again, to me, all of a sudden the game plan changed in the second half from what they were doing in the first half. That drive to end the first half.
Correct.
Why would you throw the swing route to the flat when everybody's sitting there? Go ahead, throw it out of the end zone. Let's get 3 points, and we've scored on every single drive. They would have been 4 for 4.
Correct.
3 touchdowns and a field goal. Now Cincinnati goes in the locker room going like, man, we can't stop these guys. What are you gonna do? What do you got left in the bag? Instead, like you said, they don't. They get stopped. Cincinnati goes in with a little bit of momentum, the big mo, and all of a sudden, it's a different second half. And the game. My problem is, why do you change the game plan? Why do you not continue to do what has gotten you there?
Yeah, it was almost like they were trying to play conservative ball.
No, they weren't. To me, they were trying to force the ball deep and throw daggers. They were trying to end it fast, which again, instead of they nickel and dimed on the whole first half, and they were boom, 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 moving down the field like nothing. In the second half, they stopped nickel and diming. Kelsey stopped catching the ball. They stopped running unders or crossing routes with Tyreek.
And we actually texted at the first half who's gonna cover Kelsey? Why are they not covering? Did they not see the week before? And they went away from that.
They went away from the short. Again, To me, the short game was their key. Everybody gets scared of giving up the deep ball to those guys.
And Coach, another point you brought up, which we spoke about as well. Phenomenal game plan second half, coming in rushing 3. They were kind of rushing 3, slanting them to the field, making Mahomes have to scramble or move to the tight side with the spy rusher on the backside. That's football talk. That's a stack strike spy. there, right? As soon as he started to take off, they had that rusher coming off the edge when they were rushing 3. So, I mean, what a phenomenal adjustment. And hadn't seen that since college ball.
And we talked about it last week when we said Buffalo. That was what Buffalo should have done. Buffalo should have run 3 deep, and now keep everything in front of you.
Cover them till the cows come home.
And you got a spy guy. You got one guy to see if Mahomes wants to break. We got him. We're gonna run to him. But again, I think that Kansas City allowed that game to get there. I think that if Kansas City sticks to what they were doing early, they were even running a little bit of counter trap with McKinnon. He was looking really good running the ball. He was fired up. And again, my issue with that is why get away from the things that are working? Even McCall Hardman, they threw, what was it? They threw a screen pass or a swing pass to Hardman. Hardman got it, broke it for 25. It was frustrating.
And that's another frustrating thing because this time it came around and it bit him. But Andy Reid is famous for that. He gets away from the run packages that are giving them 7, 8, 10, 12 yards a pop. And it's like, dude, stick with it until they stack the box. Like, what are we doing here? Why are we going away from that? Because let me tell you something. Their run game was looking very solid down the stretch and in the playoffs. Why do we go away from it? Yes, you have the cheetah. You got the guy with.
Oh, you got a gunslinger. You got a gunslinger.
Right.
But now play action
Jesus,
and opens up the game for you.
Grizz,
talk to me,
Grizz, you're
kind
of.
I'm just listening to a couple coaches give their insights. I like both insights. I don't like the cute shit at the end of the half. You're right. It's just common sense to me. We talk about this trying to be, like you said, you could go 4 for 4 in scoring. They had just scored a touchdown, so you need to get the points back some way. Doesn't need to be the 7 to equalize. You just need to get those 3. And the thing that bothers me, man, these coaches think that they're smarter than everybody else. And then Patrick Mahomes should receive that play call and say, you know what, I'm going to throw this ball out of bounds. And he's too cute for trying to get it to Hill on the outside there with no timeouts. When it's 5 seconds, you're like, all right, you got one more play. End zone, that's it. It takes 2 to 3 seconds. You miss. Then the fact that he steps back and already takes 2 to 3 seconds, I'm already like, even if he throws it in the end zone, we're probably not going to get it. And sure enough, he throws that ball, and that changes all momentum. You come back now saying, hey, we got a chance, guys. We're only down 11 after being dominated.
I'm alive. We're alive. We're alive.
Everybody knows that this team is scary. You don't want to have a team like this dangling there, come out of the half, and Joe Cool, man. And you got to give all the praise in the world.
Yeah.
Not only
to the
Bengals,
they played a great game.
You got to give the praise as much as the Chiefs started doing all that. That defense, man, stepped up. They hounded them. They harassed them. They took all the things that the Chiefs did bad at the beginning of the season and brought it back. All that we saw, are the Chiefs, and then they got everything back to normal. We saw all that encapsulated in 2 quarters. And you know what? Joe Cool is going on to the Super Bowl. That's what we got now.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say, right? Like, we harped on what KC did wrong, but you got to give it to this kid who's doing all of this, who's leading this team despite subpar O-line play. And what I was going to say is, football, it boils down to numbers, right? Like, how many do you got in the box, right? If KC continues to, with the game plan, and continues putting pressure on them, right? Now it's like, okay, we have to throw the ball, right? On the Bengals' part. And they're not a good pass blocking team. That O-line's built for, coming downhill and running the ball. Okay? But then you open the door for it. You crack the door open, and now what do you got? You got P. Ryan and you got Mixon coming downhill at you, eating up 5, 6, 7 yards a pop, because that's what that O-line's built to do. If you put them in a position where they have to pass block. Listen, how many times has Joe Burrow's been sacked in this playoffs? I mean, it's damn near 25 times.
Not to mention, they never did anything flashy in the second half. There was no big play. They did everything, you said, Coach, that the Chiefs should have done. Just kept on, just
drove it and drove it
They
and
just
drove
kept
it.
driving it. And when you needed that first down, you had a little run by Joe Cool that got you like 6 or 7 yards. And then again, the next time he gets those 5. And the guy's not going to have the greatest game. He's a second-year player. But he's a second-year player that has led his team to the Super Bowl. I don't need to see the flashy numbers of all these great QBs now. I just need to have a guy that manages, knows when to not make mistakes. I mean, you got Patrick Mahomes throwing picks that are terrible. I mean, that pick at the end of the game in overtime, I mean, it was just
Forcing the ball to double coverage.
There's no need for that.
Forcing the ball.
You know, you're probably going to punt the ball anyway. At least probably, punt them back. But now you give them that. You get them
And
to
they
the
got
40
field position. It's easy. And the kicker, the McPherson,
And once again,
he's automatic.
And here it is. This is why another reason why we don't need to change OT rules.
Cold blood.
Stop the team. How about that? Guess what? The Bengals. Oh, once we got the Chiefs with the coin toss, they just had the field goal. Same scenario. It's over. No, it's not. It's called, why don't you play defense, man? Stop the team, get the ball back, and win the game.
That's it.
And the Bills have a better offense. I mean, a better defense, right? They couldn't stop
Number
them.
one defense
And
in
they
the
couldn't
NFL.
stop them.
Because they didn't make the adjustment.
The bottom line
Right.
is, play the game, bro. The rules are there. Everybody knows the rules. All year long, you know rules. This is what's going to happen when you go to OT. You lose the coin toss. Oh,
You know your situation.
not this, oh man, we should change all these rules to benefit. No, it's at the moment, things happen, and you adjust. The Bengals adjusted, they win, and that's it.
We had, like we talked about last, we had sudden death for 30 years? It was first team score, game's over. That's it. Didn't matter. First team score, sudden death. Which to me was a great thing because it gave it it's sudden death.
Right.
What a concept. So, but that's where we're at with in the AFC.
Here's my frustration with the OT rules, and I won it on this. Like it's the same for everybody. You can't have this like situational. Oh well, no, they should have had it. It's the same for everybody. Everybody's playing by the same rules. Okay, whether you agree with them or not, it's the same rules for everybody. Bottom line. So now, with that being said, let's move on to the NFC. Okay, and to Mr. Stafford's credit. Okay, he's putting it on his back for the most part. Okay, and exactly what we needed to expect from him for them to get to the Super Bowl, he's done. Okay, for the most part. LA obviously winning 20-17. Tale of two quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford.
But you know what? But again, and that's another game where San Francisco was controlling the line of scrimmage, was controlling on defense. They were doing all the right things. And I question, why is it that they didn't boot or roll out their quarterback? Why did they leave Garoppolo, Jimmy G in the pocket the whole game? When they know that Jimmy G in the pocket is not a stud.
No bueno.
Move him out, roll him out, boot him, which they did all season. When they do that, they create mismatches with Kittle. They create mismatches with Debo coming across the field. Little things.
Is it fair to say that Shanahan chokes in the playoffs when it comes to play calling? Because, listen, this is becoming a pattern where he is a bang-out play caller in the regular season,
but no, because he
tightens up.
Oh, he had a good first half. And in Atlanta, if you're referring back to the Super Bowl,
Atlanta,
they had a great first half.
Then San Francisco.
But they had a great first half. In Atlanta, he had a great first. They were beating the living daylights out of the Patriots.
Right.
And then in the second half, again, we over-adjust. We go conservative. And to me, you don't start being conservative until the beginning of the fourth quarter. To me, you have to play the third quarter like you played the second.
Well,
you have to stay aggressive.
But the thing is, like, the frustrating part about that Super Bowl, when we're talking about the Atlanta and New England Patriots,
I'm just talking in general.
Like, you had Dante Freeman in the backfield at that point, who was the leading rusher in the NFL.
But you can't. But you got to understand something. You cannot start the third quarter trying to kill the clock. Okay, if you start the third quarter playing not to lose, you're gonna lose.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is he only rushed that.
Well, I'm saying
because that game, that was in the fourth quarter, basically all that comeback. And in this game, the same thing. They didn't
score in the third. Is what I'm trying to say.
The Niners?
No,
in this game?
In this game, the Niners were up 17-7.
But they scored in the third.
In the third, one touchdown.
Correct, but I'm saying that they were holding them down.
Right, the defense played very well.
Here's the thing. The bottom line is that all these teams don't realize that these scores are not insurmountable.
No, correct.
You know,
In the
once you
NFL,
start thinking about it, it's 2 to 3 scores, the 20, the 10. It's just, in your mind. And all of these teams, every week there's a comeback, it feels like now.
It is, but
so
it's
like
always
you
like
cannot be playing, not to lose. You have to keep the pedal to the metal. I'd even say, forget the beginning of the fourth quarter. I'd say even almost with 8 minutes to go is when you start.
Right.
You got to play your game. It's kept you there the whole way. If you prevent yourself, I've always hated it because you prevent yourself from winning, man. You're giving these people chances to come back in the game. And in reality, I mean, 10 points is not the craziest lead. And you knew the Niners weren't moving the ball that crisp anyway throughout the game. It was just a matter of time. The whole postseason's been kind of like the defense has been holding you strong. And, not for nothing, Stafford tried his hardest to, give the game away.
No, the dropped interception.
His first interception at the beginning of the game, that was terrible. The dropped interception later in the game was terrible. Stafford's going to throw some up there. Super gunslinger mode, so you have to be able to, get those plays. So
that one play, and usually you don't like to blame it on one play because the Rams did drop a couple of easy plays.
They also did the same.
Okay, but that one particular play puts you in a position where the game's over.
Yeah.
Game's over. It was
Or
a
at
punt.
least you
It was a super easy throw.
Yeah.
It should have been.
Or at least you obviously will have a couple minutes. You'll take up the time, and it's going to make it a whole lot harder for them to score. At the end of the day, this is one of those games where I really don't, the Garoppolo's exposed. He wasn't that good. He's playing hurt anyway. That team was on its last leg. As hot as it was, you could tell that it was about to flame out. And, I mean, the Rams, the last 2 drives against them, the Niners were just the Rams defense. Those 2 drives, once again, are the reason why they forfeited their next 5 years. Because those drives were just
the last drive. I knew the last drive was going to be because you got there's no run fake. There's nothing you can do to stop those horses from galloping over.
And also, you're putting the ball in Garoppolo's hands. Like, all right, kid, go win us the game.
All I really wanted was the overtime. I didn't care who won because that last
I was good.
field goal was killing me. I missed my teaser. I hit 3 out of 4. I just needed a freaking field goal.
I had San Francisco plus 3.5.
No, I had them both.
So it was all right.
I had the Bengals and the Niners covering on my tees. I had both games over on the tees. And you can't give me a 3 points. It's at 39.5 and we're at 37. Just give me the 3, bro. I already covered. And we're in the money. But no we don't. It's okay.
You want to take a knee.
All right, well, let's jump into it. Super Bowl set, okay? We got the Rams against the Bengals.
Another hometown game.
The Rams playing on their home turf, right? It's never happened before in the Super Bowl era, and then now the last 2 years.
2 years in a row.
2 years in a row.
Now it's
2 years in a row. Now it's like
now it's a thing.
Now all the Dolphin fans are waiting for it to be in Miami because they'll have a shot.
Exactly.
Now it's a thing.
This time the Rams will be portrayed as the road team. Last year Tampa was the home team, but the Rams will be portrayed as the road team. And not for nothing, last week against the Niners, it was kind of a road game anyway.
Well, I think I brought it up. Like I think it was like 65% of the tickets sold went to Niners fans or something like that.
That was obvious because that happened 3 weeks ago when they played 3 weeks ago. There was more Niners fans.
They also had something going on with not selling tickets to the LA fans. There was something going on within the city itself. I don't know exactly.
That's not just the Rams; it's also the Chargers. The city itself is still getting used to the fact that they have football again, and
that the fans can go to the games.
The fans can go to the games regardless. But the point is that there's just a lot of people that live in LA that are San Francisco fans too. I'm sure. So that didn't and the Super Bowl doesn't matter anyway because it's going to be all. It's probably like 20% of fans, and the rest is all people with money that get to go to these games that aren't really fans.
This is facts.
So,
gentlemen, what do we think here?
Nothing yet. We got 2 weeks.
No.
Give me your initial thoughts.
There's no initial thoughts, sir. I got 2 weeks.
Well,
and I'm sticking to my story.
The gambler will speak that way. I have another thought because my gambling thought will be next week, but this is just my off the cuff. Who's gonna win it? I gotta give it to the Bengals. I'm gonna ride on this train of craziness. I mean, the fact that the Bengals are about to win a Super Bowl in my mind after 2 years ago, how terrible they looked, and the franchise itself, Cincinnati, it's just
the Bengals.
The Bengals, come on. But I just, what? I'm expecting Matthew Stafford to regress and become Matthew Stafford from Detroit when he feels that he's going to need to make a big play And I think Joe will be that guy who's not going to make the mistake. And those receivers, I mean, this is a game of receivers. We got amazing receivers on the Bengals. Odell finally stepped up and said, I'm here last week. Cooper Kupp is just pencil that guy in for over 8 catches, 100 yards, and a couple touchdowns. That guy's just automatic. But I just think Matt Stafford's going to make that crucial mistake, man.
Very, very solid receiving cores on both sides. I'm very much looking forward to the Jamar Chase, Jalen Ramsey matchup.
That'll be awesome.
That's gonna be something. If you're a DB, you want to see that guy.
I think the Bengals have the better running back or running game, so I think that'll help out.
This is also true.
It's just it'll end up coming down to the Rams defense against that Bengals offense. I think.
How that.
Yeah, all that money spent on that defense now and all those trades, it's gonna
how that defensive line plays.
Yeah,
this
is Aaron Donald's time to show up, and who knows? This is the type of game where Aaron Donald's gonna have 4 sacks or 3 sacks, get a Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, I mean,
for getting a strip sack, fumble, touchdown.
Von Miller's gonna have to shoot his wad on this one as well.
Oh, for sure. Probably might retire after the game.
Again, that's why I don't want to say anything until I dive into the stuff this week and take a look at the offensive line.
The deepest of dives is going to happen next week. That's all I know.
And take a look at what's really going on up front. Because they did do a good job against Kansas City. Maybe they're gelling a little bit better. I'm still they're only 2 weeks removed from a 9-sack game.
Correct.
So
but they don't know any better.
This defensive line.
They don't know any better. They're young. They don't know any better.
But the problem is that this defensive line poses a huge threat.
Oh, absolutely.
So how they deal with that, to me, is going to be the key to this game.
I agree.
Now, they're not good against a run, so maybe that is the equalizer.
Yeah,
heavy dose of mixing.
And that's what I'm saying. If the offensive,
just to keep them honest,
if the Bengals' offensive line starts coming downhill on those guys, it might change the complexion of the game pretty early there.
I will say one more thing. The tight end for the Bengals, what's his name? Uzma. If that guy, which it looked nasty.
They're both hurt.
I know.
They're MCLs, but they're both MCL sprains.
But I hear that they're a little bit more hopeful that Uzma can play the game.
Yeah, it was an awkward fall. Oh. That's what it was. The way he came down.
If you saw it in the slow-mo, that knee hit him and his leg.
No, but the problem is when he came down, he ended up doing like a split.
Yeah, he was.
So it was a very awkward fall, and that's why I said that it was an MC, because I knew it. As soon as I saw him fall, I was like, oh, it's a knee.
Yeah, I was looking at the knee that he took while he was in the air. That one looked nasty.
Yeah, but I figure in the air, you give. Right. It's not in the ground.
I don't know if Thigbee's coming back, but I think Uzma's more.
But that other tight end, Blanton, had a great game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he did.
But I'm saying that for a guy like Joe, I think he will need the tight end more.
Correct.
Stafford is. I think Thigbee's a great guy, but he could figure it out. I think it's good to have that blanket. And Uzma has been playing really good lately.
Like I said, Blanton, that guy Blanton was it became his blanket. Nice. He dropped it off a bunch of times.
But that's going to be huge for them. They need that.
Yeah. So let's roll into some GOAT talk here, gentlemen. The retirement of the GOAT.
Are you talking about the fake retirement or the real retirement? Which retirement are you going to talk about?
Are we talking about the pump fake during the weekend?
It all happened in the span of 72 hours, so talk to me.
So real quick, Tom Brady, all-time ranks, passing yards, first, passing touchdowns, first, wins, first, winning percentage, first, total EPA, first, total WPA, first, Pro Bowls, first, Super Bowl appearances, first, wins, first, Super Bowl MVPs, first, conference championship appearance, first, playoff yards, first, playoff TDs, first.
Coach, he's the GOAT.
We know. Just wanted to make sure.
Coach, he's the GOAT.
I didn't need any of those stats.
Coach, he's the GOAT. We know he's the GOAT. All you gotta do is say
stats
7. All you gotta say is 7.
I'm just saying.
7.
7. It's the reason
longevity gets you all those.
The reason why I wanted to read it off is because it literally takes up the whole post. It's they had to force it.
The most important number is 7. That's it.
7.
Six with one franchise.
He gave away 2 to you guys.
Correct.
So So I don't know if you saw Eli Manning's message. That was hilarious.
Listen,
how he thanked him for 2. How gracious of a friend you are, Tom, to give me 2 of your Bulls. I love it.
He
should have won the Eagles. The Eagles one was actually his worst game, but he still had a chance. Actually, this guy's sick, man.
He's disgusting. He really is. He really
stupid.
isn't. And
Like, he cemented it with coming to Tampa and saying, "Hey, home every year I'm going to win a Super Bowl."
Listen,
It's crazy.
but did you see the season he had this year?
Yeah.
He had 48 touchdowns?
Yes.
5,000 yards? Like,
I mean, yeah.
What- talk
and
about
he was
riding into the
obviously
sunset.
MVP
Without winning the
contention.
actual
He has an
Super Bowl.
outside chance of winning the MVP.
Yeah, without winning the actual Super Bowl, this is the best way to lose.
I mean, he
Yeah.
again, he has gone off into the sunset
Yeah.
with at the top of the mountain. Literally at the top of the mountain.
And that's there's a lot to be said there, because too often we see all-time greats trying to stick it out a little bit too long, and it's like a sad fall that last season. Big Ben.
But we don't
Big
know
Ben.
when the fall was going to be for Brady. The guy's almost 45 and he has his like career numbers right now.
And I'm going to tell
It's
you
just
this.
stupid.
This is purely conjecture. Like, because he was thinking about it already and had mentioned it, last week and the week before, if he would have came back, I feel like because he wasn't like mentally in there, I think it would have been.
He mentioned for the first time in his career, he mentioned his wife and his children.
Yeah.
He has never ever at the end of a season, over the last 4 or 5 that retirements in the ball in the game. This is the only time he ever mentioned, I have to sit down with my family, I sit down with my wife, the kids. That
was
at
a
this
clip.
time was exactly. It was a little bit of an
I think
insight
just the
that
fact
he was leaning
said
towards
it
that.
is different. I'm sure every year he had that conversation. But the fact is, he said it
He
to the
said
media
it,
for the
right.
first time.
No, and
But
it was at the forefront. It really was at the
I
forefront.
don't think. I mean, if he was thinking about it and he wanted to end up coming back, I think he's mentally strong enough to all right, let's get back. He'd be able to do it.
Yeah,
No,
Grizz, but
I
the
just-
thing is, when you open that door and you kind of speak it into the universe, you can't close that door.
But I'm pretty sure he's
but he can
probably
refocus.
spoken that in his
He's a refocusing
in
guy.
his family.
There's
the
no
last couple
doubt
years.
about it. But again, I just don't think he was 100%.
First
That's what
of
I'm saying.
all,
Like,
At this moment,
first of all, the guy's a mutant, bro. He's different.
Now,
He's
is
different. He
is
would
there
have been
one
the
thing?
guy that would have been able
Is
to
there
cross
one
him.
thing that sticks out to you guys in his illustrious career? Do you guys have like one thing that sticks out? I do. I have one thing that just completely sticks out for me, and with that gentleman.
I do.
Go ahead.
Getting smacked in the freaking face by the Giants' defensive line twice.
That's petty.
Don't be a hater.
That's petty.
Petty.
That's petty.
I mean, what sticks out to me is being owned by the Dolphins most of his career.
What sticks out to me is that guy standing on a boat, hammered,
Yep.
and tossing the trophy to his boy in the other boat.
I'm not gonna lie.
That to me
to the ground.
humanized him. To me, that made him like, hey, all right,
I want
we're
to
good,
see
we're
in an
good.
alternate universe, right?
Okay.
Like Marvel multiverse. What happens if that trophy hits the water?
man,
How
that-
many dudes are going in there?
Everybody, including him. But still, that's the one moment for me that kind of like, he's like, and he goes, here, try it. And, to me, that humanized
That's the
him.
look of a dude who's
Yeah.
carried those 5 or 6 times before that.
I got a bunch of these. I'll just go. I get
I
another
mean,
one.
I think the whole career humanized me because it's just the fact that guy every time he never was like super. He come in very nonchalant, just tell you, hey, this is how it
6th round
went.
draft choice.
Yeah. I love
Worked his way up.
I love the video of his workout video where he's like the skinny looking
Yes.
dude, and you're like that
There's
guy.
no muscle,
That guy
there's
can
nothing.
never play in any kind of sport.
Yeah.
Forget football.
Yeah.
And then he just becomes
What
the
a wasted
greatest of
pick.
all time.
What a wasted pick.
Yeah, that's why it doesn't matter where you are, man. You got to give it your shot, give it your all, don't give up. If you're playing in the best league for whatever sport, you're someone. And you never know. You have a chance to become the greatest of all time. Or you will probably not.
Well, here's the thing. It's a lot to be said now, especially in this current generation of the the phenomenal young student athletes that we do. It has a lot to be said about he is the poster child for dealing with adversity. The guy was never had to deal with Drew Henson, who was an all-world recruit at Michigan. They split time with him because they didn't. What's his face? The head coach at the time for Michigan didn't have the sack to give him the job. Then gets drafted in the 6th round, 199, right? Has to sit behind Drew Bledsoe. Only plays because Drew Bledsoe gets knocked out. Then he gets hurt in the AFC Championship game. Drew Bledsoe comes back in and wins the game for him, right? And thank God, Bill Belichick is like, oh, we're going to go with Brady in that first Super Bowl. Is regarded as a game manager for for the first 3 Super Bowls essentially of his career. Then finally gets a super squad, right? They lose to the Giants after, a perfect season, which would have obviously put him in even more rarefied air. Comes back the next year, tears an ACL, then goes pretty much a decade without winning a Super Bowl, right? And then, essentially has a third, depending on how you want to count, a third Hall of Fame career, right? Like, if you really want to break it up, he has 3 Hall of Fame careers in that 22 years.
It's hard work pays off. Hard work pays off. And that's all he's ever done. And it shows. And he's a student of the game. He knows the game. He's mentally
the fact that he wouldn't take the money and give it to the team shows it. The fact that he knows he's not an idiot. I can't win if I got all the money.
He just did that now. He just did that with Tampa Bay.
Right. I made a joke of like, purposely like saying all the accolades and what he's first in and stuff like that. But I think you had mentioned earlier what sticks out, to you the most about Tom Brady in his career. What sticks out to me about him is the fact that he never cared about being the highest paid quarterback or the highest paid player in the NFL ever. As a matter of fact, he took 3 or 4 pay cuts whenever, every time with the Patriots.
You don't have to worry about that because in your own household, you're not even the highest breadwinner.
Right. But I'm saying but it says a lot about his just laser focus on we're trying to get this dub every single year.
I mean, the guy is just the best. I hate to say it because of being a fan of my team. That guy, once again, even though we kind of owned him when we played against him, he had the accolades. He had the last laugh. He'd win the Bulls that I wanted. So I got to give him all the credit. I always think the better man is to say you're the man, you're the great guy, instead of the hate. So I salute you, Tom Brady.
Never once.
Right into the sunset, with the hot wife, the kids, the fame. Yeah, I feel for you. It's going to be rough.
Checking off all the boxes.
Yeah.
And a monarchy's worth of gold on your fingers. So, but...
And I see him maybe down the road coaching for some reason. He just feels like that guy that might coach.
So I see him in the press box. I see him talking and announcing games.
Well, see, I don't
see him talking. I don't see him do
know.
that
See,
at
I was going to bring this up, and that was my next question for you guys. This is what I was going to pose.
Oh, no.
What's his next act?
It's either nothing or
somebody.
coach.
I forgot who it was. Brought up that they can see him being a GM. Right? They can see him being a front office.
I can see him being a GM or an owner. I will have to say I can't see that because that guy does not like to have, like, when we had him with I don't know if you saw the Peyton Man, the Monday Night Football Peyton Manning and Eli. When he was on with him, he just doesn't have that to me. Peyton Manning, perfect. Even Drew Brees is getting on me, but a Tom Brady, I think, is more refined, relaxed, and he's either gonna be on exactly GMing, owning, coaching. I just don't think he's the
to
type
me.
of guy
I see Tom Brady as being a GM, a front office exec. I don't see him in the press box. I don't see him on TV, and I cannot for the life of me see him on the sideline as a coach. I don't. Even though he has the knowledge and the ability and the wherewithal to be able to do that, I just don't see it. Because, I mean, hell, he left. He left.
By the way he writes his Twitters and his memes and stuff like that, right. I think he has a hidden humor and a hidden.
He has. There's moments.
Character.
It's funny.
I think he has a hidden character that he doesn't bring out to light because of his competitiveness.
Right.
Because he's so ultra focused, but I think that'll change.
Who knows? I mean, I will guarantee you this: that all these places are going to want to try to get him.
Oh, they'll throw. They're going to throw
it's the name Tom Brady. I mean, if you got that guy,
they'll back up the Brinks truck for him if they can get him.
Nah, I think for sure he's going to take a couple years to chill. He's not going to do anything. That guy's just going to probably look, I just did this. Now it's time to relax. Probably,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Spend time, obviously, see his kids, play whatever sports they're playing, do whatever they're doing.
For sure, it's a minimum of 2-year hiatus.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's jump. Let's keep on with the NFL talk. Let's look at some head coaching news where we're at right now. The Giants hiring Brian Dable, which sparked a little bit of fiasco with our boy Flores. I sense a Grizz gripe coming along here on that situation.
Oh no, this is not going to be a grizzly gripe. This is definitely going to be a gripe.
This is my
Gilski.
gripe. This is my gripe.
I'm giving Gil all the gripes this week.
This is my gripe. I'm not going to lie. I'm
Set it off.
I've gotten to a point where like we talked about a couple weeks ago when you weren't here, Grizz and I spoke about race and how we try to equate everything now to race. Okay? And this situation with Brian Flores, to me, is a fiasco. If he tells me that he does this 4 weeks from now, 5 weeks from now, when all the coaches have been hired and only one or two black coaches got hired or none, then maybe I could give him a little bit of credence and I could understand his thought process. Okay? But going into the situation as it is, you just got fired from one of the better situations you could have had. Your GM was a black GM. So he wasn't fired based on race. Okay? We move on now to the other coaches that are being hired throughout the NFL. You got Buffalo. I mean, you got the Giants who have hired Dable.
Yeah,
and right before they hired Dable, they picked up the GM from Buffalo. So, of course, it only is natural.
Writing's
and
on the wall.
Understanding that I'm the GM. I want someone with me that I know. I want to coach with. Like I'm coaching with you. I coach with you because I know you. We have a relationship.
There's a relationship here. You're on the same wavelength. You guys think the same. You know, the writing was on the wall.
I think that's hiring 101.
I feel that we're going to get the same players. I think that we're looking for the same thing. Maybe we've talked. I don't know. Maybe we've talked. Maybe we've discussed. Man, if we work together, I don't know. Maybe those two guys talked. We take a look at the Raiders. Who did the Raiders hire? Josh McDaniel. Right before they hired Josh, who'd they hire?
Front office exec from the Patriots.
Oh my gosh, go figure. Go figure. The Broncos. The Broncos have hired Hackett from Green Bay. Okay. Oh, see, he's been there for a couple of years. He's been in the NFL for a number of years. With that being said, the Broncos have been in talks and mentioning Aaron Rodgers for the last 2 years. Ever since Aaron Rodgers talked about, I might dip. The Broncos have been in that conversation. So again, it doesn't fathom or fall far from the tree to say, man, we pick up Hackett. This guy wants to leave. He's not feeling. We can bring in Aaron for 2 years. We got a shot to win. We can do another Peyton Manning situation. Wow, what a great.
Again, another situation riding on the wall.
It has
Bringing him
nothing to do
in
with
because
race.
it exponentially increases your chances of getting the boat.
In these situations,
Not the
it has
but the
nothing to do with race. Okay? Now, you want to tell me Jim Harbaugh? Okay, I could go for that. I could understand if you're going out to Jim Harbaugh when you've got an Eric Bieniemy. We got a couple guys that are possible guys that could be good NFL head coaches. But now, with that being said, Harbaugh was the head coach of the NFL in the NFL. San Francisco 49ers went to the big show. They went to the Super Bowl. Was successful. So here's again another guy that has NFL ties, credentials. That could be the guy to bring in to coach. Again, we keep throwing out the race card at every shot. I read a little bit of an excerpt from his. He's calling the teams plantations.
I do agree with your point that I hadn't thought about earlier when I was looking at this. Your point regarding his timing of it, right? That's an extremely valid point in here. Like the hiring process is not even over, right? So you still potentially had a chance to interview with the Texans or the Jaguars or whatever other team, Minnesota, whatever it is. But now by doing this and ill-timed, you've just nullified your chances of being called for another interview. So, like, great job bringing that up because I didn't even think of the timing aspect of that. Now, what I do want to bring up in this situation, I think we're extremely open in this show, and we come from different viewpoints, and we're we're always open to some intellectual discourse. You know, the Rooney Rule, it's an imperfect solution to a problem of minority head coaches, you know, not getting opportunities, whatever the case may be, however you want to call it. It's a very imperfect solution. And in a certain sense, I do think it does minority coaches a disservice because it's like, oh, well, we have to do this. So let's just bring them in to comply with the Rooney Rule.
Anytime you have quotas and requirements, that's what's going to happen. You're not going to bring in people that you're genuinely interested in because, oh, man, I have to do this.
Right.
That's a sad commentary.
Right. Exactly. And I do understand the notion of giving them an opportunity to be in the room. However, the way that it's built and the way that it's evolved, it's just it's sad because there's like, what other solution do we have? How do we do this another way?
It's part of the dog and pony show. It's done to acquiesce and make people happy, and it's really it doesn't really work because you're, like you said, you're forcing them to do an interview, even though I've already found my guy. I'm already gonna hire the Grizz, man. You know, I've got him. But I can't hire him until I go
comply with
through the hoops and make it look like I'm bringing in all these other candidates that I really don't care about.
Now, my belief is that it doesn't. This is the problem. The root of the problem is not the head coaching part. The root of the problem is the assistant part. Like, there is a minority of there is a small number of minority assistant coaches that
Coach, I disagree. I disagree. If you take a look at the sidelines today.
I think we had this conversation a few weeks ago that the sidelines now more than ever.
You have women.
Okay,
you have
maybe now
Hispanics, of course, over that, Coach. But we're talking in the last 25 years, at least 25 years, we have moved to more blacks, more Hispanic, more minorities on the sidelines than you've ever seen before, ever.
The only thing that still doesn't look like it's been progress is the amount of head coaches.
Correct.
I think you're absolutely right, Gil. And here's the thing, I believe in this, just my one little thing, that it just, I think organically this would have happened. You don't have the rule, right? If you never had the rule, the reason, like you said, the reason the rule was put there was to a good reason, get them in the room and all that. But then it goes back to, because you could have had a rule, hey, instead of that rule, you got to talk to 4 people before you hire someone. And that still would bother the person that, hey, I don't care. It doesn't matter color or not. I want that guy. So now I'm going to have to interview 3 people until I get to the 4th thing. I think organically it would have just happened. Obviously, maybe the speed, who knows? But I think you would be seen because right now the sidelines are littered with them. So all minorities are out there to be seen. So you could just go now and interview. I think.
Can I just say anecdotally, and I don't have any hard data to back this up, but I do think, like, generally, right, historically, maybe not so much now, you know, let's call it what it is. The white dudes who are not as athletic, right, end up entering the profession at an earlier age.
We talked about that.
And they end up developing and rising through the ranks, whereas you have minorities who are more talented, who are pursuing an athletic career, who don't enter the profession until later on in life. And
did you see one of the sidelines the other day who one of the coaches is? Wes Walker.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You get me? And that's the Grizz and I spoke about this a couple weeks ago.
And I'm sorry, the perfect example is Sean McVay. The dude was already coaching on an NFL coaching staff at 21 years old and became a head coach at 30. Okay?
Guys, listen. And this is something that permeates society. It permeates the world. It's a lot of who you know, sometimes more than what you know.
Right.
It's whose coaching tree you fall under. Yeah. And we discussed this a couple weeks ago. That because of these coaching trees, some of these other guys are getting opportunities now. Okay? And it also, again, I go back to it also goes to, as a player, as you said, there's players of lesser abilities. Their technique has to be perfect.
Correct.
Players with better abilities can get away with their technique not being perfect. Not that they don't work on it, but they can get away with it not being picture perfect.
They have superior natural athletic talent.
Exactly. So again, those guys with the talent are less likely to coach or get into coaching, or it takes them longer to be able to teach the technique.
Correct.
To be able to get that going. And again, I keep going back to my issues with it is, I'm hiring you to be the face of my organization, okay? How you do in the interview, how you speak, how you carry yourself, the things that you do, to me, are huge. Because again, you become bigger than the owner. When
Your
you're the
face
guy,
is more out there, right? Like
you're there every day. Every
correct.
day you've got 18 mics in your face every single day.
And Coach, I would like to kind of add, some thought to this. There's kind of an inherent natural paradox there, where like those who can't do teach, right? Going off of what you were saying, that those of us with lesser natural talent, like our technique had to be perfect. My technique had to be perfect as a defensive back in order for me to be on the field. Whereas somebody who ran a natural 4.4, right, who could jump out the gym, didn't need that, right? They were naturally superior, more athletic.
They could get beat off the line and they got catch-up speed.
Correct.
Where if you got beat off the line, you were saying
Right.
bye-bye.
Yeah, exactly. And that there's a natural paradox there, is those who can't do teach, but also what are we going to do? Are we going to try to pull those who are trying to pursue an athletic career out of that to bolster the coaching ranks? No, we're not going to do that either. There's a natural
But
paradox
we're also seeing, and again, I go back to, I said it a couple weeks ago, we also see a lot of minorities getting into broadcasting. They're getting into jobs in broadcasting. They don't want to do the coaching. They don't want to do the grind.
It's a grind.
They don't want to do
It
that.
is a
So
grind.
they're getting into broadcasting. You have a lot more diversified table and rooms of journalists
Of perspectives, of ideas, of
on
thoughts.
TV. Players that are on TV or former players that are on TV. Then instead of going into the coaching ranks, they're doing the talk show, the podcast, the ESPN, the NFL Network, CBS. There's so many shows now that many of them are being employed. And those are really potential coaches.
Right.
And some also have become entrepreneurs. Which again, that's something that we talked about a couple weeks ago. We mentioned Warren Moon. Warren Moon would have been an incredible coach. Warren Moon to me would have been top. But he became a business guy, got into business, didn't want to do it, did a little bit of broadcasting, haven't heard from him again. And the guy's making millions. He's super comfortable. Thank God. So again, my problem is, again, Coach Flores is making it about race. Maybe it's not about race, brother. Maybe it's just that you're mediocre. Your record is of mediocrity. Yeah, you've got a couple winning seasons, but with that being said, you had to win 8 games in a row for 2 years to be able to get there.
And maybe you rub people the wrong way.
Exactly. Again, what is it about you? What is it about? Instead of looking in the mirror and saying, man, what is it about me that's turning people off? Just like I feel the same way about our GM. I'm not going to just put that on Flores. I think Greer, not our GM, but whatever, Greer, okay? I think he rubs people the wrong way. I think that's why we haven't had as much interest in the job here as we have in other jobs. Because you see, the Raiders job has been a coveted job.
Right.
Okay? You see, even the Denver position has been a little more coveted. Minnesota has not. Minnesota's a little less.
Yeah, because they have that albatross of a contract.
The Giants, I mean, again, you've seen certain jobs have been very much more looked at and people have been interested in. And Miami seems to be hanging back. I don't see interest. Is it because of our GM? What's the deal? What's going on here?
And I would like to also point out with that situation, Bieniemy, right? Eric Bieniemy, who has been a much talked about offensive coordinator, who's been through 3 or 4 cycles?
I believe 3 cycles.
3 cycles.
Hiring cycles, and hasn't been, like, maybe he's just not a good interview.
That's what I allude to. And
also,
sadly,
it doesn't help that
sadly he deserves it.
Right, and it also doesn't help that Doug Peterson, Matt Nagy, they've kind of sputtered out in recent years. All right, and that's from that same exact coaching line and tree.
Coaching tree. And as I said, and he is deserving. That's one guy
1,000%.
that I think deserves a shot before the Bulls and all these other guys that haven't had their shots. I think Eric Bieniemy deserves to be a head football coach. But again, I go back to, what am I not doing, or what's stopping me from getting these jobs? And that's, alluding to what Grizz has said, maybe that's something that we should do. that when they go through the interview process, and maybe they can get a critique, maybe they can get an
evaluation.
This is what happened. These are the things that you were lacking. I think that builds coaches. I think that builds the future. Instead of, hey, you have to interview a Hispanic guy.
You should be able to take the criticism and find out what did I do wrong so I can get better.
Is it just? Look, man? You know what? And it was told to me at Palmetto, Jim Crow was going to be the head coach. The principal looked at me, or she called me. She goes, "Look, if it wasn't because I already wanted to hire Jim Crow, you would have been the guy." And so I had to accept that. They wanted him, but if it was not, I would have been the guy. I wasn't happy, but it is what it is.
And that's a great point, Coach, because like when I started my interview processes, when I decided that I want to be head coach, those first couple, I knew I wasn't going to be the head coach because I was young. But I put myself there because I wanted the experience.
You get the experience.
But in every one that I didn't get, especially like the True North job where I was a finalist, I emailed the headmaster, I emailed the principal and asked him, give me a critique. What do I need to work on? And what are some of the things that you think, gave the other guy an edge? I reached out to them, and I think that there's an ego situation.
They sent you like a 7-page dissertation. I get it. I understand.
and I think that there's an ego thing there with some of these guys that are that they're not looking
because
in the mirror.
They're interviewing in their minds. Everybody that's interviewing for these NFL head coaching jobs, they're obviously good coaches. They're obviously worthy, probably, of being a head coach. So if they don't get the job, what made me not get the job? So I think that's perfectly. You should get the. What the reason was you didn't get the job so you can better yourself. I think that's true in any case.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. And there's 3 or 4 more spots that have to be filled in the next couple weeks. So
and we need to see where this whole floor is.
This is going to throw a huge,
because he's suing all 32 teams.
Right. This is going to be a huge wrench in the situation here, and it's going to be interesting to see who joins this class action suit, because it's not a class action suit without at least one other guy that's going to join the suit. And who is going to be those other guys? Because you're risking potential blackball in your career by joining this suit. And he himself acknowledged that as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what goes on there. And I'm more than positive that we're going to talk about it going forward in these next couple weeks. So again, looking forward to those conversations. And I appreciate the conversation that we have here with this, because we come from different perspectives and different generations on it too. So, gentlemen, this concludes our NFL talk for the week. We're going to be right back. And we're back for Coach's favorite segment of this time of the year, some college basketball. He's pulling up his file, his trigonometry, his Pythagorean theorem. Mr. Aristotle himself, Coach.
I wish.
Give it to us. What do you got? What do you got for this week in some college basketball action?
Tonight Auburn's playing Alabama. They've stayed hot. They're still number 1. They're doing a great job of playing well. Their defense is stellar. Alabama has won a couple of nice games coming up to tonight. It should be interesting. Should be a good deal with them. And we'll see how they react. They had a big win the other night, and we'll see how they react today against Auburn. It's going to be at Auburn. So that's going to be a huge, huge game.
With the master sweater himself.
That's right.
No, and listen, they've been roaring to the top. And then, you got Baylor kind of taking a little bit of a nosedive here.
Well, I mean, I don't put a lot of credence into a lot of these games too early, just because, again, it's not a big deal if they lose a couple games here and there. They're losing away games. They won last night. Well, they did a good job of winning. So to me, it's a grind. The college season is a grind. The conference season itself is also a grind. So you expect them to lose a couple of games here and there, just because of familiarity in their conference. They're playing in some good tournaments early on, and they played well in those tournaments. You're going to have kids nicked up here and there. So you're not going to go undefeated. And again, that's why I've said it before, that I kind of hate with Gonzaga's conference, that they steamroll their conference and they go into the tournament undefeated every year.
Yeah, they don't get the test that they necessarily need to be battle
And
tested.
the losses. You're
That's
going to
why
have one or
they
two losses.
supply themselves with an out-of-conference schedule now that's hard, and they had a couple losses, so this year should be a little different.
And to the credit, they've done a very good job of that in the last several seasons.
Correct.
Of scheduling a very solid non-conference schedule.
Kentucky won also a couple of nights ago. A huge game. They beat Kansas by 18. It was a great game.
Caught them up to number 5.
Yeah. Again, and Kentucky's another team that's going to be like we talked about. There's a lot of parity this year in college basketball. Yep. There really is a lot of parity. I don't know if it's the transfer portal. I don't know if it's the COVID. I don't know which one of the factors it is.
NCAA cracking down on improper benefits.
Well, I mean, but no, because you don't have to crack down anymore. You got the nil, and it's interesting that these teams, that there is so much parity in college basketball at this time. I'm very impressed. Tomorrow night, we're gonna have a couple of good games as well. Notre Dame comes to Miami. Miami's still staying afloat, number 2 in the ACC. They play Notre Dame here.
Number 1, sir.
Are they?
Yeah.
Duke's not back to number 1.
They're tied with Duke. But they're still number 1 if you look at the standings.
They're number 1 in our heart. Wisconsin and Illinois. That's going to be a big game tomorrow.
Which I'm sorry I have to speak real quick. Once again, this is the real gripe of the week. How is still not in the top 25? It's silly.
It's tough.
I mean, what do you mean?
It's those losses to FSU, man.
They lost by 1 point each game. If you're going to lose, you lose by 1. They're still 16-5.
It's just the strength of our
number
conference.
1 in the ACC, which regardless of how terrible it is, you should be at least number 25. That's all.
The strength of our conference is really, really hurting us.
I know, but
I'm not going to lie to you. The lack of.
But now we're playing the third best team in the conference. So what does that mean? We beat them. It's not that big of a deal, right?
Well, I mean, Duke mopped the floor with them yesterday.
Yeah.
Duke killed Notre Dame yesterday. Yeah. So we'll see how we fare in that aspect of it.
Who do you got?
Well, tonight I took right now I'm sitting. Let me check my score. I don't want to Andy out myself.
Shout out.
Let me make sure that this game is just about over. I lost. I did lose with Iowa State. Yeah, you see, I'm 55 seconds away. I can't say anything about that game. So right now I'm sitting at 1-1. I won with Northern Illinois.
Is this a filibuster?
Yeah, and you're damn right it's a filibuster, and I know how to use it. I won with Northern Illinois, and I lost with Indiana State. But I do have to tell you that the new model I'm using is doing really well with the underdogs. It's right now it's 87-60 and like three pushes, so it's winning at a 60% clip. Just this weekend alone, I ended up going, I think on Saturday or Sunday. I think Sunday I went 7-3. Saturday was a little bit of a grinder. Friday night I went 3-1. So I mean I ended up winning like 15, 16 games and only losing like 7, maybe 6. But it's been really good. For this weekend, I've looked at a couple of games, and to be honest with you, right now the games, the key matchups, I don't really have any. For tomorrow night, I can say I'm going to take probably East Carolina if they're not favored. If they're favored, I don't know, because for whatever reason the favorites don't work. The favorites are at 500. Like let's say if it's a favorite by 3 and the algo gives them, they should win by 7. No, you can't count on it. It's barely at 500.
Well, I mean, you said it yourself earlier that it's the parity is, it's the parity in college basketball this year is up there with.
Yeah, but my problem is that with the algos, you should be able. It should give you a better read on favorites or not. You know what I'm saying? So it's not giving me that.
Understood.
Like I said, what it is giving me, it's giving me a good deal with the underdogs. Let's say if the system tells me that the team should win by 2.5, 3, and the other team is favored by 4, you take the underdog with the one that the algorithm gives you the win.
So let me ask you a question here, right? Or we go into tournament play, we go into March Madness. Obviously, we're still several weeks away from that. Wait, is your algorithm still going to be useful come tournament time?
I believe so. I believe it's going to give me a good insight as to teams that have a chance to upset, especially off of the numbers that I'm using. Okay, like I said, tonight I had Northern Illinois favored by 1. They were getting 4. They ended up winning the game. Now, Indiana, Iowa State should have won. The system said should have won. It didn't. They lost. So, like I said, it's 1-1. But as the night goes on, those underdogs are tending to cover more. So, gambling-wise, it helps you.
Gotcha.
And then we'll see. I'm going to do a whole intake of wins and losses, period, to see how it
fleshes out there
exactly
as we go along. So with that, right, with the algorithm, as it gets more refined as the season goes along, like you're gonna have a better picture of it once we get into tournament time.
I tweak it here and there. I'll change a couple numbers. I'll change a formula that gives me the points scored, because again, at the end of the day, all of these algorithms are based on points scored, points allowed.
Gotcha.
I don't go into it yet as to experience, and that's the one thing in the NCAA tournament that it's a key, is experience of teams and players. Mm-hmm. If you got a senior-laden team, I don't care if you're the 12th seed, 11th seed, you have a great chance of moving ahead in the tournament because your kids have been playing together, and especially like we've talked before, like the Loyola Chicagos, all these underdog teams that have been to the tournament the last 2 or 3 years, if they've been playing together and they got a four-year senior, they have a good shot to making it to the Sweet 16 because those kids have been there. They have the experience. The experience is huge. See, that's why I think Kentucky does a little bit of a disservice to itself a lot because they get rid, their kids leave so fast.
Yeah, they're one and dones.
It's such a difficult situation for them.
Which is it's just not sustainable for him. And Coach Calipari has said that himself. Like that model is not sustainable. And he's proven it time and time again where they're worlds apart from where they start towards the end of the year.
Correct.
But yeah, no, for sure. Like obviously in the tournament, if you have a very experienced team, right? You got a couple seniors on your team that have been through the dance a little bit. It's gonna be how do you factor that in to your algorithm? Like how is that numerically? How does that factor into your?
Again, I'm not going to say
it's proprietary.
I'm not going to give you exactly how it does because then it destroys what I got. You got to do your own homework.
Well, I'm saying, okay, so let's rephrase it. Do you factor that in numerically into your?
Yes, I will when we get to the tournament. I don't really do it now.
Got it.
Because again, I don't think it factors into the conference play.
Not yet.
And to me, home court is a little bit bigger than
neutral site with teams that are senior laden at that point, and it's one and done. Different kind of scenario.
I'm just trying to give the people what they want, baby.
I hear you, baby, but we're not going to give away our secrets, kid. Not right now, kid. Right now we're sitting real nice.
Once this thing keeps working for him, the book will come out, and then you can get it for like $5.99 on Amazon.
There you go. So as I was saying, this week we do have a few games that we're looking at. We do like. As far as, I really can't put out any lines because the lines are not up yet. And again, since it's stat-based, I have to wait for every game to go through to use those stats. But the games of interest tomorrow night, Dayton plays at VCU. That's going to be a really good game. On Thursday, we're going to have UCLA at Arizona. That's going to be a payback game for Arizona. Arizona got little pow-pow at Pauley Pavilion.
Get the little smacketh down.
Yes, sir. And then Iowa at OSU on Thursday. And also, there's a Mountain West game, Boise against Wyoming. Let me tell you, man, that Mountain West with San Diego State, Wyoming, all those teams play really good defense. Boise, whichever one of those teams sneaks into the big dance, they're going to be a nice little out. They're going to play real tough, and they play really good defense. And then Friday, you have a San Diego State and Colorado State, which again are two Mountain West teams that are playing very well. Colorado State was undefeated until like last week or the week before. And then you got the Bonnies at Richmond. St. Bonaventure at Richmond. I know. Some of these teams nobody's ever heard. Listen, nothing sucks more than having last night team SIU Edwardsville. Nobody's heard of those guys.
Look, I know about the Spiders, man. I love that Richmond.
Plus 3.5 with 2 seconds left. The other team is inbounding the ball. They make the pass, long court. The guy gets it, he dribbles, and the guy from SIU fouls him. You're already down 3. There's no need to foul. You're not going to do anything. You can't help yourself. There's nothing you can do. So, of course, the guy sinks 2, and the 3.5 goes out the door.
Do you pull out the 4?
Do I pull out the hammer and start hitting the TV at that time?
I was going to talk about the few little
No,
the
they
few
fall
little
out by
whiskers
themselves. They fall
that
out
you
by
got
themselves.
up
Yeah,
top there.
No, I balled naturally, sir. Thank you, but I balled naturally. You know?
Doesn't need any help.
With the sweats I give myself with these teams. Kennesaw State, all these little teams that I'm taking with this algo. And
You are
and
a
this,
masochist, sir.
I am in more ways than one.
Goo.
But that's it for this. Again, Saturday's got 125 games. You should try to see me on Saturday, trying to do this between Friday night and Saturday morning.
Coach is the meme, from Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh my gosh.
Where he's trying to do like the whole in the mailroom and smoking cigarettes. You're trying to just connect the dots.
I gotta get better at this
Especially
stat
with that
scraping.
little visor.
With the little visor.
Yeah, with the visor,
on,
exactly.
For sure.
I almost feel like my boy at Casino, smoking the cigarette. Yeah, we're gonna make that one 7.5. Yeah, put 7.5 on that one.
Yeah. I got 3 winners for you. Can't get them all.
Yeah.
You're a beast. Jesus Christ.
It's been fun. And you know what sucks about it is that I had both games last week. Last week I had Kansas City favored by only 2.5 with this new model I'm using, and I'm like, wow. And again, we'll get into it next week when we discuss the Super Bowl. We'll move on from there.
I see you get a little antsy here.
No. It's when you've got something going. It seems like it's a good formula, and it works well. I'm trying to backtrack it now to see how well it would have done throughout the season, to get some data. And that's the great thing about college basketball. I've been able to amass like 600 games. Something ridiculous. I mean, let me hold on. Let me make sure.
I need to see this Excel file.
Let me show you right here. Let me see where I got here. I started playing around with over-unders, first half algos. That's the other thing. I got to figure out the first half, how the point spreads work. Right now, overall, wins, losses, favorites, and underdogs, the model is 275 and 232. So it's hitting at a 54%, which technically that's what you're looking for as a gambler.
You want to be at 55, right?
You want to know 54 is a winning. 54 is a winning point. Not 55. Anything over that, you're great. So like I said, my favorites are 166 and 60. So that's where we're at.
Very interesting.
And then what I also do, I don't count games that my line is within 1.5 points of the Vegas line. It's only if I have a 2-point edge or better.
Very nice.
It's the way we work it.
I get it. Mr. Coach Gil over here becoming a mathematician.
I don't know about all that. I'm just glad I got the formulas locked in.
Archimedean himself over here.
By the way, I can now say I'm 2-1. Davidson wins tonight.
Hey-o! Avoiding the Andion.
We're sitting at 2-1.
The filibuster worked.
That's right, buddy. Sitting at 2-1. Davidson won at St. Bonaventure, by the way, as an underdog.
Wait, tell me, they were an underdog to St. Bonaventure?
Of course. The Bonnies are good.
The Bonnies are on fire.
The Bonnies are solid.
But
they were 3.5 point.
But the Spiders.
Okay, they were 3.5 point favorites.
You can only hope to contain them.
And my system only had them winning by 1. So that was a cover.
There you go.
There it is. And that's our...
and there you have it.
That's our quasi deep dive into some college basketball here. We're going to continue to dive even deeper as we move closer to tournament time. We're going to be right back with some MMA talk. We're back to close out the night's episode with some UFC talk. We got the style bender against Whitaker for their second fight. Coach has got some a little deep dive action for UFC 271. Coach, take it away.
We're not going to talk about that yet. That's going to be next Saturday. This Saturday is going to be the UFC fight night. Hermanson versus Strickland, which is the prequel to UFC 271. which that main event's going to be a tremendous fight. It's going to be hard-hitting. I do think Adesanya beats him again, but we'll get into that a little bit more next week. This week, the main event is Hermansson versus Strickland. I personally am taking Hermansson in this fight. It's a very evenly matched fight. I think Hermansson has been in bigger fights, bigger situations. I think age-wise, he's also within limits. He's 32, 33. He's only 2 years older, if I'm not mistaken, than Strickland. So I don't see that as being a factor. I think he's a more complete fighter as well. So we'll see. He is an underdog in this fight.
Plus 175, right?
Yes, sir. He is an underdog. He is an underdog. But I do think that he has better... At those odds, they're only giving him, and I'll tell you right now...
I mean, they look pretty evenly matched across the board here.
They're only giving him a 40% chance to win. And in all honesty, he is much better than that. They're putting Strickland as a 2-1 favorite, even though Strickland has had some good fights. But everything, like I said, according to my metrics, I think it'll be a good fight. And I do believe that Hermansson has a chance to beat him. Later on, or earlier on in the card, there's a couple of fighters. There's a gentleman by the name of Miles Johns. He's a 2-1 favorite. I'm not taking him, but he's a dynamo. He is a dynamo. If you watch that fight, he's going to be fighting, I believe his name is Castañeda. It should be a real good fight. It's in the prelims. It should be a really solid event. The other fighter I'm taking is Mr. Dawadu. His name is Hakeem Dawadu. He is a middleweight, if I'm not mistaken. So, again, he's also fighting a gentleman. He's got 2.5 inch reach advantage. He's a striker. He's a minus 170 favorite. So I like him in this fight. I think he's got a little bit more experience as well. And I think he's going to come off and be able to knock this gentleman out. Trizano's also a striker, so it works well to what Hakeem does. It fits right into his wheelhouse. And then the next gentleman I'm taking is Phil Rowe. He's fighting Jason Witt. He's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. He's going to have a 4-inch height advantage. He's at minus 135, minus 140, and I like him to win the fight as well.
Let me ask you a question. What is you're big on the undercards here, right? On the prelims. What
It all depends. I'm big on whoever I follow, who I've looked at, who I know about. I've seen some of the other fighters. There's some guys there that I'm not gonna take a Rachmanov for minus 240. As much of a favorite as he can be, I can't do that, especially in this sport.
So yeah, let's talk about that, because you just said it, right? Like in this sport, there may be a favorite, there may be a marginal underdog, whatever the case may be. But listen, one punch equalizes everything.
Correct.
So where does your confidence come from in picking a fighter? If that makes sense to you.
Yes, there's various factors. Number one, the most important factor in my opinion is age. The older guys, it's harder for them to get prepared. Number two, we look at it as a boxing match as well. We look up as styles go. Does my style fit? Am I a grappler? Is he a grappler? Is he a puncher? How good am I at deflecting punches and being able to grapple and take him to the ground? How good is he at defending the takedown? The third thing we also like to look at then, the next factor would be height and reach advantages. Okay, and last but not least is experience. Experience is important, and that's like I said, that's why I'm taking Hermansson, because of his experience. He's been in championship fights. He's still fighting to regain a championship as a middleweight. So it's not something that's going to be overlooked. So those pretty much are my factors. That's what I look for in the fighters. And I'm sorry, Hakeem Dawadu is a featherweight.
Yeah, looks like there's some pretty legitimate fights this coming weekend. And Coach, talk to us a little bit.
This card is excellent, and the next card is going to be is dynamic.
Talk to us about how this sets up though. Like, so when we're looking at these bouts here, when and in the different divisions, is this setting it up for the next fight for the next UFC main events going forward? Like, how are these main cards and prelims and the fight nights?
Well, usually the pay-per-view cards are always championship cards. Okay, your pay-per-views, you're gonna have championship bouts. You're usually gonna have anywhere between 1 to 3 championship fights. Okay, the UFC fight nights are not championship fights, even though the main event of the night is a 5-round fight. And usually those main event fights are guys that are leading contenders.
Like 1-2 contenders?
Or they could be 4-5. But they are leading contenders in their division to move up, to challenge, to put themselves in position to be a 1 or a 2.
Gotcha.
Like, for instance, when we break down next week's fight card next week, you have a Derek Lewis versus a Tui Tuivasa fight. Heavyweights. Those guys are now, again, positioning themselves back into trying to get into contention. Derek Lewis just lost the other day. Tuivasa has been on a 4-win fight streak. So again, those guys are trying to now get back into contention to be in the top 5. And that's how it works. And that's the early prelims. And again, the early prelims, what happens is you get a lot of action in early prelims because I want to go to the prelims. I want to be on the main card. That's where the money's at.
Right.
The main card is where the money's at. Whether it's a UFC fight night or it's a pay-per-view. Pay-per-view always, it's going to pay more.
Correct.
But I want to be on the main card, the 5 fights of the main card. Mm-hmm. That's my goal. So that's why you see the early prelims sometimes are slobber knockers. Because those guys and ladies are fighting to get the recognition and move up to where the bigger money is.
All right, looks like we're good. I wanted to talk some Adesanya, but we're gonna
no. That's next week. That's next week because that's gonna be right into Super Bowl weekend because we got the Adesanya fight on Saturday and the Super Bowl on Sunday.
That's gonna be awesome.
So it's gonna be a nice little 1-2 situation there. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be 1-2. That's gonna be legit. All right, hey, this wraps it up for the night, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, always listen, share, follow, subscribe. All right, talk about it with your friends. Send us your comments, your thoughts. What do you want us to talk about? Okay, help us grow this following. It's been amazing so far. Looking forward to continuing it on. Coach Grizz, what do you got?
Oh, no, I'm just here waiting to talk about some Winter Olympics. I thought we had that on the agenda. No, it starts this Friday. Curling starts tomorrow.
Come on, man.
What? I'm sorry.
Curling.
I'm sorry.
I love curling.
I was just listening to...
I love curling too.
I'm so going to talk about curling next week.
You can do the Grizz deep dive.
But no, I'm just messing with you guys, waiting for the Gilski there with the MMA talk. I'm sorry I had nothing on the last part because these guys, I have no idea who's fighting this week. I was looking forward to just like Frankie there for the next week's fight. I do know those guys, and that looks very good. But
so you got to watch this weekend's fights, Chris.
I'm gonna start to get to know these guys.
Start getting to know the different guys. That way you can
what
see,
I find funny
you can see
about the MMA?
Up.
There's a ton of fights.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always the main couple fights. You got like 12, 13 here. I'm gonna start getting into these guys.
I do have to credit Coach for kind of dragging me into this. I wasn't a big UFC guy until about 4 or 5 years ago, so I started hanging out with that guy.
It's great. It's great stuff.
But yeah, no, it's a phenomenal sport, and it never disappoints. It really does not. It never disappoints. Whether you're pissed or you're happy at the end of the night, it never disappoints. So,
but anyways, I'm also with you. Thanks again. This has been also another week of fun talk. Can't wait for next week's talk about the big game. It's going to be huge.
Huge.
We're gonna really see who Gil's pick is next week.
See how cool Joe is.
once again, I'm on board right now with the Bengals. I think Frankie, would you end up going with?
My heart's with the Bengals, but I wouldn't mind seeing Matthew Stafford. Kind of just let's get him out of the
Well,
conversation.
hopefully next week we got you on an actual pick because that you can't hedge this pick.
No.
I'm
Listen,
not hedging anything.
We're
I
gonna
just
wait, we're gonna
my
see what
heart's with the
happens.
Bengals.
All right. Well, we got to go one or the other next week.
Thanks, Dad.
But yeah, that's what I'm here for, brother. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Gilsey, what you got?
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Please reach out. Let us know what's going on. And hit those like buttons. Subscribe. Make sure you're listening to us every week.
All that good stuff. 2 coaches, 1 Grizz. Out.